Masvidal defeated Darren Till, but it wasn't without some highlights from Till. Let's take a look. Till, a much bigger fighter, cracked Masvidal. That was very evident, the size discrepancy. But then this happened in the second. Crack. Till knocked stiff with a couple of big punches. Now, Till was imposing his will early on, and if not for that knockdown, that first round was pretty close as is. It was a pretty close first round outside of that knockdown. But Masvidal, despite the size difference, you're talking about Till, who should have been a middleweight. Masvidal, who probably should be a lightweight. Masvidal was coming back with that counter right, that left hook, those leg kicks, those body kicks. He was really switching up the game. Not only that, he wasn't just counter fighting. He was pushing forward as well. He really switched up the game, kept Darren Till on his toes, and then finished him off by lunging in, getting aggressive, and doing what he had to do to put Darren Till away. If you all go back and watch my assessment ahead of the Darren Till-Donald Cerrone fight, I said that it felt like Darren Till was trying to convince himself of a lot of the things that he was saying. He said a lot of weird things that made it seem like he didn't believe the things he was saying. Then he knocked Cerrone out. I'm like, all right, maybe he does. He hasn't knocked anybody out since. It's been a year and a half. It's been 3 fights. He beat Stephen Thompson, but he missed weight in doing so. It went to the scorecards. He got tapped by Tyron Woodley in a one-sided drubbing, and he got knocked stiff by Masvidal. There are holes in his game. Nicholas Dalby dragged him to a real good decision. It was a draw, but it went to a decision. Tyron Woodley's tapped him out. Masvidal has knocked him out. If you are an up-and-comer that gets your crack at Darren Till, you say, man, I got 3 ways to beat this guy now. I can question his pace and push it. I can vary up my game and knock him out. I can drag him to the ground and submit him, especially if you're a middleweight and you see a much smaller Tyron Woodley doing that. Or you can look around and say, man, one of his holes early on was the Nicholas Dalby took him to decision. Now, keep in mind, after that fight, Nicholas Dalby dropped 3 straight decisions to the likes of Zach Cummings, Peter Sabata, and Carlo Pedersoli Jr. Got bounced from the UFC. That, in all fairness, right before that, he also took a split decision win against Zaleski dos Santos. But there are a lot of ways to beat Darren Till. He needs to go to welterweight or middleweight in my estimation. You're zapping your body of all that water, man. Come on. What's the point? Why are we doing that? Has that proven to be much of a success? Is the size advantage that you are carrying into that fight that important? Because it wasn't when Jorge Masvidal, a former lightweight, put those hands on you. It wasn't when a true welterweight in Nicholas Dalby fought you. You couldn't make the weight when Thompson fought you. Woodley out-wrestled you, and he's smaller. Masvidal, you can give him anybody in the top 15. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, man, you got to give Masvidal a huge fight. No, I don't think you do. To be honest with you, I didn't think he should have been in this main event, but obviously he won it. Perfectly fine, sure. But before that, he had dropped fights to people at the top of the division, Thompson and Maia. But you know what? He gets to say, I got wins over Cerrone and Till and Chiesa, people like that. Anybody in the top 15 is fine with me. Thompson versus Pettis next week. We're going to be previewing that